You're listening to the Let's Go Buffalo podcast, your new favorite podcast for everything Bills and Sabres. Hello, what's going on, everybody? You're listening to the Let's Go Buffalo podcast, your favorite podcast for all things Bills and Sabres, with the pals Nigel, Tom, and Jake. We got episode 80 coming at you. You know the drill, fam. Do not forget to follow the socials. You can find us on all of them. That's at Let's Go Buff Pod, Buff with 2 F's, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. You know, if you're on YouTube, don't forget also hit that like button, leave a comment, do something to interact. You can make fun of us, tell me how stupid my mustache is, whatever you want. 11 minutes ago, the Packers signed Mecole Hardman. Tom, what do you think about it?
Breaking news.
Yeah.
Come here. You heard it here first, folks.
Yeah, as long as you haven't been on any social media for the last 11 minutes, you heard it here first.
Another wide receiver. I feel like they have wide receivers coming out of their ears.
Who cares? It's Mecole Hardman.
That's also true.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. But yeah. What's up? What's up, pal?
Hey, buddy. How we doing?
I'm good.
Good.
Yeah.
Torpedo? How you doing, my guy?
Great, guys. I learned something new today. 11
What did you learn today?
11 minutes ago. That's what I'm saying.
Oh,
I come here for breaking.
understood.
I'm a co-host. I'm coming here for my news, though. This is great.
Nice. Love that. Yeah, happy to be able to provide that service for you. That's my pleasure.
Somebody's gotta.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, shit, fellas, we got so much to get into. Yeah, so much. Well, hopefully we're going to be able to fit it all in here. But today's going to be all Bills the whole time, folks. There's nothing to talk about with the Sabres because they still suck, and we all know that. And Josh Norris is already hurt, and there's literally nothing to be excited about at all, except maybe Rasmus Dahlin galvanizing the team. But who gives a shit? Tom, I'm going to put you in the driver's seat today because you're the best looking. And I think since you're the best looking, you should be in charge. Does that make sense, Jake?
Who, me?
I feel like that makes
Put
sense.
it up top. Well, since I'm in charge, I would like to start with my beverage. Please.
Yes.
Give me ready?
Yep.
Crack
that was
with me, boys. 3, 2, 1. Well, you're too late, Nige. You've already given over
Hey,
the meal. You don't
whoa.
anymore.
Tom, hey, just take a breath there, my guy.
Well, I'm going first. I'm drinking an Athletic Brewing beverage tonight. It's called Upside Down. It's the Golden. It's one I have not tried yet, and it's pretty darn good. I'm excited.
Nice. Jake, what are you drinking?
Me next. I'm excited about this one tonight. It's called Jerry's Farm. It's from Rojan Brewing, a local brewery near me. Jerry's Farm is a farm owned by Jerry, and he provided the hay that they toasted and brewed the beer with. So it's a little different ingredient than normal beer, and it gives it a really nice, like, cinnamon holiday flavor.
Grassy.
I'll say it. Yeah, it's kind of grassy. It's very good though, and a bit unique. So yeah, shout out to Rojan Brewing.
Word. I can get down with that. You guys have cool ones. I got a pretty whatever one. Got the Southern Tier Double IPA this evening.
Yeah, dude.
I did not know that.
It ain't broke, right?
Yeah, that's true. I didn't know that Southern Tier was brewed in New York.
Yeah,
the Southern Tier. You know,
Yeah, right. And I guess really, truly, just didn't even think about it.
bro.
I got nothing.
This guy moves out of state, and all of a sudden
I
he starts
just forget.
learning things.
I just forget, dude. I just forget.
Breaking news 11 minutes ago.
Dude, speaking of out of state, man, so one of my new favorite things to do down here in the South is pull up. You guys know Skinny Atlas Lake, right? Spelled not even close to what it sounds like. Having the non-New York State folks try and pronounce that. I got a video to remind me to send it to you guys of a good friend of mine down here doing it. It is absolutely to die for. I laughed so hard I almost peed my pants. So
that's phenomenal.
It's really good.
Yeah, that's
On that note,
party trick, Nige.
On that note here, Tom, why don't you start to get us into Bills land here and all the fun things there is to talk about?
Okay. Well, today is Tuesday, March 18th, and there's been quite a bit of progress. This roster is starting to come together. Before we go anywhere, we talk about anything, I just want to say, and I think this goes for us too, we have to remember that this team and this roster is not set until week 1. So, however, whatever concerns we have, whatever celebrations we have, we just have to keep that in mind as we're looking at this roster construction, because we're not in the know. We're not in those rooms with Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott and the rest of the front office and figuring out what their plan is. So, we're going to start analyzing the plan and forensically, picking it apart. But this team does not need to be ready to go until week 1. So just kind of keeping that in mind as we go. We're not in crisis mode, anywhere close to crisis mode, because there's still so much time. There's also been just a lot of very fun things that have happened. So I would like to start with our re-signings and contract extensions, because this team, I think, is maybe the most homegrown team we've seen. We've watched Brandon Beane be just a wizard at being able to keep his players, his picks, the players that we bring in and we develop, and they blossom into some of them superstars in the league, and we're able to keep them here, right, in Buffalo, and it's just so cool. So I want to start there because I think that's such a big building point for this team. And probably, if you ask Brandon Beane what was the number one thing that he wants to do, it's to build from within, right? Both coaching wise, roster wise, all that. So let's start there. And then we get to kind of fill in the rest of these little pieces as we go. We got to start with Mr. Moneybags at the top, because what a year this guy has. Joshua Patrick Allen has signed a 6-year, $330 million contract extension with $250 million guaranteed, which is the most in NFL history. The most. No one else has done more than that. And that also means that he signed through 2030, which is just bananas to think about that's even approaching, even if it's 6 years away. But the fact that it's approaching is just bananas. But what a cool moment for this NFL franchise. We have our guy.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And not that there was ever concern that we didn't, right? We were never concerned that Josh Allen was walking out the door, but like the fact that we've signed him to one big contract extension and now he's on his second, and 2020, 30, hopefully we're signing him to his third, right? And that sounds awesome, but just so freaking cool. Josh Allen here to stay.
Yeah, it's just real quick, dude. I think the really cool thing about that contract is, even like Josh Allen left money on the table. And I don't know we have a lot to talk about here. I don't want to talk about it too long, but like his cap percentage, it came in at 14% APY, which is like where it was, 14% of the cap at his time of signing, which I think ranked. Do you remember where he ranked in terms of that percentage at signing? It was like 11th or something like that.
It was
in terms
top
of
10. Yeah.
It was outside the top 10, which is absolutely obscene. Even now, with the current cap situations, Dak Prescott still makes more money than Josh Allen, which is absolutely absurd. So thanks, Josh. Thank you. That allows us to just keep doing things. Go ahead, Tom.
Right. I mean, that's a great point. And to kind of put a little bit of context into what you were just saying, one good way that a lot of, especially some people in Bills space right now, particularly Joe Marino at the Joe Marino and Locked On Bills, he likes to and is encouraging a lot of us to look at how signings are written right now in terms of percentage of cap. The NFL cap has risen by $50 million in the last 2 years, right? So you cannot look at the AAV, or the average annual value that our contract is signed for today, and compare it to anything even 1 year, 2 years, and especially even further beyond that. Like, you just can't, right? Because there's so much more money pouring into the league right now that deals are going to look really big, and they're honestly, really reasonable. So the way that Nigel just explained that was that Josh Allen's $330 million 6-year, $30 million 6-year contract is at 14% of the cap, is just, that's really remarkable. That's kind of like, just the impact on the roster construction is not as big as it could have been, and that's kind of the point that Nigel was trying to get at.
Can I pause this for a second for maybe a somewhat dumb question or rookie level question? But so Josh Allen's cap hit, that 330 million, slash it by 6, that's his yearly salary cap hit, or is it the 250? And what is getting him from the 250 to the 330 million? Is it incentive based bonuses? Is it performance based? Like what's driving that?
Great question, Jake. So that's really good. So his AAV is the $330 million divided by 6, which I think is 55 million, right? So that's the most that he could make up to a year, right? His cap hit is different, which I know is different than hockey, right?
I know. I'm trying to figure that out.
And I'm not sure the best way to explain this. What happens is that the $250 million guaranteed is the hard cap hit that he will be paid over that term, right? Over those 6 years. That will be coming, hitting the cap and will be affecting things. He can earn up to $330 million in that span with the contract incentives. So making the playoffs, making the Super Bowl, throwing for 4,000 yards, throwing for 30 touchdowns, right? Things like that can, how the can affect what he earns that year. But then his cap hit can be moved around. Right.
Okay.
And this is the contract and the gymnastics and deal gymnastics that you hear get thrown around quite a bit that Brandon Beane is quite good at, where every year some players get a signing bonus, right? I'm sure it was some obscene number that Josh Allen signed for a signing bonus. Maybe it was $100 million. Cool. So he gets paid that today. As soon as he signs it, that's his signing bonus. Pegula writes a check, which I know our Sabres fans don't want to hear. Right? He writes a check, right? And it goes, boom, it's gone. That cap hit can then be spread out through the duration of that contract, which means this year he hasn't hit this contract extension, right? So he's not being paid this money yet. That's going to be coming in a few years. He could be, for example, but for the sake of this example here, the first year his cap hit could be $27 million. And the next year, it could look on the books like he's going to get paid $80 million that year because that's just the way that the money's been moved over. Well, Brandon Beane's then going to push that again, right? He's going to do some other kind of just not renegotiate, but just move the money around and just continue to push it down. This is part of what he came out in interviews saying that, hey, he talked to his agent and is like, I know that I absolutely will take a contract extension, right? He will take a pay bump, and that's what he was looking for. But he said that whatever you can do to work with Beane and not let it really affect the cap, let's do that. And this is the stuff that lets it do that, where the money, the guarantees, and the ability to give Beane essentially however he wants to mold this clay, will be able to move this money around. He can do to make it and open up cap space for the Bills. I know that was probably clear as mud, but does that help any percentage?
A little bit. Yeah, I see some parallels. It's I think clear as mud maybe is a strong way of putting how NFL contracts work. Like they seem to just be like mud, a little bit more moldable than other sports like hockey, where it is you sign on the dotted line and it is locked in. Yep. So no, that does help. There's a lot more flexibility for the team and a little bit.
We should, as part of this, we should link to Greg Tomsetz, another big guy, and we had him on, right? Fan of the show, guest of the show, a couple of weeks ago. He does every year a spectacular kind of talking about the salary cap and does all that kind of stuff. He is the guy to explain it in a really kind of, hey, explain it to me like I'm 5 kind of way. He can do that. So we should link that so that everybody can have access to that and kind of tap into his expertise, because that's probably the best way that I've ever heard it explained. Nige, do you have anything to kind of add in here?
You pretty much covered it. Yeah, it's all super malleable. It is difficult to understand. I'm not even sure when you can just convert stuff into signing bonuses, but I've got Josh Allen's contract up right now. His 2025 cap hit is $41 million. That jumps up to $61 million in 2026, drops back down to $58 in 27, jumps back up to $64 in 28. And then here's where you hope a restructure can take place, because in 29, he's set to make $86 million. So, his cap hit is $86 million. So, it's just so the malleability, and it's all wild, dude. It's difficult to understand, but Tom is correct. If Greg Tomsetz is the best one that I know of to just have stuff explained to you. His salary cap extravaganza that he does every year is worth the 2-hour listen, every bit of it. So yeah, but it's a messy world. Hockey's way easier.
These next couple of contract extensions are just awesome, because all of them every single one of them feels like a steal. Feels like these guys left money on the table, and Brandon Beane somehow spun him around, put a blindfold on, and sent him out the door and said, "Hey, sign here." But I'm sure it was agreeable, obviously, right? They signed on the dotted line. Khalil Shakir, we mentioned him a few weeks ago, so I don't think we harp too much on this one. But again, congratulations on a 4-year contract extension worth $60.2 million. 32 million of which is guaranteed. And yeah, Nigel has a note in our doc here. Bonkers value, and I wish that I could get that. We need a sticker made of that, right? Like, just absolutely awesome to see a guy who's a very reliable, has been a Bill through and through. He's a bring your lunch to work kind of guy, right? He's absolutely been super reliable and awesome to have locked up for the next 4 years.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
We talked about him a couple episodes ago, so we're not going to spend too much time there. Another contract extension, which I was very excited to see and have no idea how he got out of the room with this. Gregory Rousseau was signed to a 4-year contract extension worth $80 million, so $20 million AAV, $54 million guaranteed. I thought for sure that it was going to be at least a $25 million AAV kind of contract. Just the way that the defensive ends and that edge groups just contracts and market has gone the last few years, I thought there's no way this guy, he's a number 1 pick. He's been awesome. He's probably one of the top 3 run defensive ends in the league. And he's got this pressure package that is awesome. No, he doesn't have the sack production, which may have helped in this negotiation because that's generally the thing that gets you paid the big bucks. But still just awesome. And the fact that we can get him for $80 million is even better. Like I would have been happy if we paid him at $25 million a year because I thought that's his worth and what we need him here. But I think this is awesome having Greg Rousseau at this price.
Yeah, I also expected it to come in around 25 million. And because I was expecting 25 million, if it had gone up like to 27, still would have been fine with it. It's more than you would want to. But again, you have to look at percentage APY at the time of signing, right? Like you have to compare it to what the percentage was of defensive ends that have similar statistical production, right? To what they signed 3 years ago, right? That percentage number. That's what you have to compare these to. And if you do that, it comes in at an incredibly appropriate value. Dare I say, a bargain for the Bills. So yes, again, Tom, I think you hit it right on the head. You stop your ability to make the huge bag as a defensive end if you don't have the sack numbers, and he doesn't. He's got the pressures, the run defense is there, but I think you crushed that one right on the head, Tom.
And I'm excited to kind of talk through as we come back around to this position group of how we can help him, because I think Rousseau still absolutely has room to grow, right? This guy was a wide receiver and a safety in high school. He did not he started playing defensive end in college only a few years ago, right? The guy still has a lot of room here to grow and kind of develop. And I think if Beane can continue to improve this line around him, he becomes more and more of a problem. I think that's when he starts to shine. He doesn't necessarily wreck a game on his own, but boy, oh boy, if you start to crack the door open for him, I think he could really make an impact.
Yeah, I agree completely. Yeah, he's not going to be your Max Crosby, Myles Garrett kind of guy, but if you can get like a higher tier caliber defensive end, maybe like a healthy Joey Bosa, we'll get to that. It takes some of the attention off of Greg Rousseau, and hopefully opens up his ability to maybe get a little bit less attention and get to the quarterback a little bit more.
For anybody who might be upset that we maybe paid Greg Rousseau, I'm curious of what your solution would be, right? If you have a problem, you got to come up with a solution too. The Max Crosbys and the Myles Garretts of the world, they don't grow on trees, right? If we want to have a chance, a prayer to even pry them away, both of them re-signed with their same team, right? Both of them. We were hoping and praying. We were jumping up and down. Can we get him? Can we get him? Can we trade for him? They both re-signed because that's the smart thing for an NFL team to do. We would need to be in the top 5 pick to be able to get a guy like that, right? And we are picking in the back half of the 20s the last 4 or 5 years, and that's exactly where we want to be. To get Gregory Rousseau at 28, have him develop the way he has, and now we extend him the way that we have, please. I think this is awesome.
You mentioned this early on, like re-signing homegrown talent. I think it's a huge mark of success too. You've developed these guys for your system, and you know they work in the systems that you play. If you're bringing in not an unknown quantity, I mean, if you bring in an all-star, you don't know that they mesh the same way. You don't know that they mesh the same way with your coaching staff. So if you can get somebody like that has comfortability and prowess in your system, sign them. Keep that homegrown talent.
Yeah. That happens absolutely, and especially because the coaches know him as well and what to expect and how to help him and where he can continue to grow.
You touched on a huge one there too, Tom. In the fact that like you've got to be dog shit to get a Myles Garrett or a like in the draft, or an Aiden Hutchinson, right? A second overall pick. You've got to be a really bad football team to get that player, and the Bills just aren't that. So. And we're grateful for that.
Right. So getting that kind of impact is got to be gone around in a different way. Like you got to go about it a different way. It doesn't mean that it's not there. You want that. You still hope and pray every single day that we're going to figure it out and that's going to just all of a sudden come to life. But it has to look different, right? It's not just a one person signing anymore, I don't think.
Right.
I believe we have just two more. We got one and then maybe the most important one at the end. I want to shout out this guy. So next we have Terrell Bernard, a linebacker, signed a 4-year, $42 million contract extension. So just over $10 million a year, $10.5 million a year, right? 22.8 something guaranteed, which is awesome. But just again, what did Tremaine Edmunds signed for in Chicago several years ago?
I looked this up because I was going to ask you a question. It was 4 years, $72 million.
Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah. Chicago hates themselves for that contract still.
That was years ago, guys. That was before the salary caps exploded. That was before that.
So if you had Tremaine Edmunds on this same deal that Terrell Bernard signed, which player are you taking if the deals were exactly the same?
Oh, gosh. Oh, that's hard. Still
probably TB for me. He makes the bigger plays. And I don't think so what's Tremaine Edmunds' his strength. It's his ability to take away the middle of the field because he is a human pterodactyl. But Terrell Bernard is still insanely athletic. I don't think the drop off in coverage and is that different between the two of them. And TB gets way more splash plays, fumble recoveries, interceptions, and I think is a better leader. So
that's true. Hey, captain, right? My captain.
And so was Tremaine. Tremaine had a C too, but he had a C when so did 7 other guys.
That's
right.
True.
Like Terrell Bernard has it when it's one other guy, and the one other guy is Josh fucking Allen.
To get Terrell Bernard at this kind of value is just bananas, right? I think he's absolutely starter level linebacker in this league in top half, in my opinion, and he still has room to grow, right? He's still getting better.
Yeah, I think this one came in at what I felt was a fair number, given what TB does. I think, like I said, he's super athletic. I think one of the strengths you get with him is his leadership. He runs that defense really well. He's great in coverage. He's a good blitzer. He still can't get off blocks. I mean, he just gets swallowed up so easily. So I think, like right then and there, you probably lose a lot of money as a middle linebacker if you can't get off a block because he can't.
Yeah.
And we saw with the decline of Daquan Jones came a noticeable downtick in Terrell Bernard's play.
Yeah.
Right. So it feels like, and this was the same thing with Tremaine Edmunds, because he had a similar thing too, right? Like couldn't really get off blocks. It feels like the success of a Terrell Bernard is very much linked to the success of the one tech.
Right.
In a lot of ways. So, I think because of that, like he's not the player that can overcome poor one tech play. Not that the Bills have had poor one tech play, but he can't overcome mediocre one tech play. And therefore, I think where he came in is probably pretty damn fair, all things considered.
We're gonna detour a second here because I've been thinking about this and how I wanted to bring it up, and we're gonna workshop this for a second. Nige,
sure.
What is your thoughts on how McDermott and Beane designed this defense based on the kind of players they try to get? and they like body type and player type in the entire defense. Just kind of think of it as a whole. What kind of plan do they have? Do you have it's okay if I'm not leading you in the right direction.
You mean like predictively, like what I think they're going to do this upcoming season?
No, what is their general plan over the last several years? Have they shown us how do they like to play defense?
They like to play defense in a zone and keep things from getting over top of them. They just want to keep everything in front of them and have that be the way they operate.
Totally, right? And they will never get out of nickel, right? They're going to keep Taron Johnson on the field at all costs.
Totally.
And they're going to play with these smaller bodied guys. Those guys will succeed when you're able to play and you're able to kind of see ball, get ball kind of position, right? Be aggressive, go after the ball, put them in positions where they do well. If you ask them to be shedding blocks and the offense is getting to the second level and getting their hands on these linebackers, they're not going to succeed, right? So in my mind, this is kind of I'm going into this offseason with this kind of trying to get into how Beane is kind of designing this team. This team has two cruxes. Number one is scoring points on offense. We have Josh Allen, and Brandon Beane is banking on Josh Allen to put up points every single week against every single team, because then that puts the defense, and they're not playing from behind. If you can play from ahead, which we've seen our team just go ahead and dominate every week this past year, when we could play from a lead, it's so much different. This game script is so much more smooth. The game is so much more fun and less stressful because we're designed to play from a lead, which may be a opportunity here, right? So please, everybody go ahead and dunk on Tom here. But if you play from a lead, that then puts the defense in a spot where they can play in their best fit and what they're designed for. We're not designed to be stopping a team with Derrick Henrys of the world. We saw that against the Ravens this year. Dear God, they stole our lunch, right? We're not designed to do that because we don't have the bodies to do that, because we're designed to play from the lead. Anyway, so that's kind of my thought. Going into this offseason, I'm kind of just digging deeper into Beane's brain. I think that he is absolutely hedging his bets on we're going to play from a lead because we have Josh Allen, and he's going to make it work. And this defense does better. We're going to set up a defense that can play with a lead as well, and just hedge, and we're going to do our best to win in those kind of games.
If that is Brandon Beane's plan, I need to have a serious conversation with Brandon Beane.
Okay. Fair.
I hate that plan.
Okay.
Because if you just bank on being ahead, I mean,
so I know I want to say I don't know if that's the right way to do it, but do you think I'm off base? And feel free to critique. Do you think I'm off base for how they've designed and the roster construction they've done around this team?
Yeah, I think you're not wrong in the way that they've constructed it. I think your logic on why is probably where I don't agree. I think this coaching staff just philosophically believes that zone coverage is the best way to play defense, and therefore have geared the team around that. A shell zone that keeps everything in front of you, that, kind of depends on athletic linebackers that can erase the underneath stuff so that your secondary guys can just get over the top. And the other thing you get with zone is the ability to keep your eyes on the quarterback so that you can tee off and, see ball, get ball, like you said. Yeah. I just think that's what Sean McDermott thinks, and therefore that is the way the team has been constructed. I do think, given that the emphasis or the attention paid to the one tech on this team has been grossly undervalued. Yeah. I would argue it's, after Taron Johnson, the most important position on the defense, bar none. But
based on what it opens up for everybody else,
but just based on exactly, it just keeps. If you've got a guy soaking up blocks that can't get his hands on Terrell Bernard and Matt Milano, then those guys are going to ruin your day.
Yeah.
But once those guys are blocked, they're blocked and they're done on that play.
Yeah.
So that's why I think that priority of a one tech, that's the top of my list as a defensive one tech.
Yeah.
For sure.
I would totally agree with that. I would like to end today with kind of making our priority list. We don't necessarily have to rank it, but kind of get it in tiers of, hey, what's most important, second important, third important. I think we should leave today with that.
We better throttle down then, because we haven't even gotten to free agents yet. There's a lot to talk about there.
All right. Well, we have to end with the most important contract extension. Reed Ferguson was signed to a 4-year deal. Mr. Long Snapper himself, $6.5 million. So pretty cool to have him locked up. Good for you, Reed. We love you, buddy. Glad you're here. Nige, would you like to start defense or offense? Pick.
Defense.
Jake, would you like to start with offense or defense?
What Nigel said.
Okay. All right. So we're starting defense. Let's start in the back. And we're kind of work forward. The safety room currently has Taylor Rapp and Cole Bishop. Derek Forrest was signed to a $1.34 million deal, and DeMar Hamlin was brought back, signed a 1-year contract extension worth up to $2 million. So, Nige, do we have our answers in the room right now, or do the answers need to come somewhere else?
Nope. I think your answers are in the room. And here's my bold prediction. Derek Forrest will be a starting safety for this team week 1.
Ooh.
Not barring injuries. I think he's going to outright win the job.
I think the next hot question then is who's next to him?
I hope it's Cole Bishop.
Yeah.
But you paid Taylor Rapp.
Right.
I'm just so tired of Taylor Rapp flying around like he's had great plays for the Bills. I just wish he would stop hurting the Bills.
Yeah.
Physically injuring the Bills.
Any of the Bills. Yes.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah. I think having DeMar come back is an awesome floor play. The guy, he is not in my mind a starting safety, but if he just starting a pinch, absolutely. Safety 3 or 4. He's a great, especially because of all of his experience in this team and in this system. I think that's an awesome signing. I would not be surprised to see a rookie pick here in the safety room. I would not, I could see that happening, but I think they'd have a tough time making the team is the only thing. Yeah. It could be somebody that maybe it's somebody more of a practice squad. Maybe it's a UDFA safety, that we're now going to stash in the practice squad and kind of get into the system. But, anyway, that's kind of my thought.
Yeah, we'll see. I would anticipate if there was probably one position where I don't see a pick going, and honestly might be safety.
Okay.
But just because I feel like we got a lot of bodies in there and there's a lot of youth in there too. But yeah, who knows?
Sure. All right. Moving over to corner. Guys, we can celebrate here. We sent Mr. Elam himself over to the Cowboys. He's out of town. Kyrie Elam was traded in all of his missed coverage with a 2025 6th-round pick, traded to the Cowboys in return for a 2025 5th and a 2026 7th. Good luck. Hope it works out for you, bud.
See ya.
Yeah.
Next.
Dane Jackson was also signed a 1-year deal. No details yet there. But I think as a floor play, I don't think this is clear to me that this work still needs to be done here, right? The fact that it's Christian Benford and Dane Jackson and Cam Lewis, right? Like, right? This is the gaping hole in my mind here of there is no answers yet, and this is definitely a clear spot that some more work has to be done, either with some kind of veteran brought in or a high draft pick.
Yeah, it's the second biggest concern for me right now on the team, and I'm sure a lot of people would call me crazy for prioritizing a 1-tech defensive tackle over a starting cornerback, but I've seen this team have success with a Levi Wallace, Dane Jackson-esque CB2, and I've seen them have more success with a dominant Daquan Jones type of player. So it seems like, based on this defensive structure, based on what I have observed, that a dominant 1-tech defensive tackle moves the needle more for this defense. That being said, you don't want to count on a Dane Jackson / Levi Wallace type cornerback starting for your defense because they are extremely limited in what they can do athletically. So yes, with hopefully Kenneth Grant being pick 30 for the Bills, I hope the 2nd-round pick is any number of, there's so many, I've started to dig into the draft more. There's a lot of good defensive line and cornerback depth in this draft. So it's a good year to have the needs that the Bills do, I think.
Absolutely. There's also still a couple veteran options that are definitely improvements over Dane Jackson out there that I could see after the draft and before camp being signed to be brought in as a depth piece. Like I could still see that a free agent acquisition happening here. But I agree. I think this is definitely a clear sign that something's coming in the draft.
Yeah, for sure.
All right.
Absolutely. And we got a ton of picks too. We can move around all over the board. Anyway,
Yeah.
keep going.
Yeah, which is awesome. I think that's an awesome place for us to be.
Yes.
Moving forward, linebacker. I think this is another room. This is my pick, if you ask me, of where are we not going to sign anybody or draft anybody. I don't think we're drafting any linebackers because I think we have a whole slew of them, right? Well, it came through today. Breaking news today on Tuesday, March 18th. Matt Milano revised his 1-year deal. He brought his deal down to $6.3 million with 5.6 guaranteed, reduced his salary by 3.6 and created $6.1 million in cap space. So obviously that was a conversation with Beane. I don't know if it was as the point of, this is me speculating, hey, we're going to have to release you if you don't, right? I'm sure at some point that some of these conversations get there when they have to do contract reductions, but I'm sure Beane had a very real conversation with Matt Milano's agent and said, hey, this is where we're at with this player and what can we do here to keep him on the team because we want him to be here. And it worked out. So Beane waving his magic wand again. Not sure how he continues to do this. However, he convinced another player to do a contract restructure. And but again, I think having Matt Milano and Terrell Bernard as your starting linebacker pair is an awesome place to be with all these other, young bucks we have in the stables. I think we're in a good spot with linebacker.
Yeah.
So Matt Milano's had some injury issues. That's no secret. Who's next up if one of Bernard or Milano goes down?
Dorian Williams, baby. Who
Draft
I think
pick.
I'm not 100% convinced he won't outright win the job this year.
It depends on what he does up here.
Yes.
It depends on what he does up here, right?
110%.
Matt Milano still absolutely has the brain for it, and I think he still has the body and the athleticism for it, but Dorian Williams can absolutely usurp that. He absolutely has the opportunity to. The big thing holding Dorian Williams back is, boy, oh boy, does he get fooled by offenses all the time.
Right. But
right?
how vastly improved was that by the time that Matt Milano came back? And that was only year 2, and I think significant in the fact that it's year 2. Your second year is your first offseason where you're not focused on getting drafted. It's your first offseason where you are a linebacker for the Buffalo Bills. So what kind of progress does he make with another one of those off seasons, another one of those training camps? If he can match 85% of Matt Milano's intellectual, I think Dorian Williams takes the job from Matt Milano.
Could be, right? How many Buffalo Bills have we seen take a leap in year 3? We've seen so many. Spencer Brown, Dawson Knox, right? Like
Josh Allen.
Most of them, right? That these, Brandon Beane picks these athletic freaks who aren't quite refined, and he just, hands them off to McDermott to go shine with a, bunch of sandpaper in the corner, Bet
on traits. Bet on traits, baby.
So, yeah. And I think that, that honestly could have contributed to that conversation with Matt Milano. I said, hey, look, like this is, we got this young core behind you that we're excited about. Can we talk about this deal to kind of keep you here? Because we have players that we believe in coming up through the pipeline. Like probably might have been part of the conversation there.
Sure. Sweet. Keep us rolling, Tom.
Okay. D-line. This is an exciting one. Again, one that I don't know if we have any answers for. Maybe we do, maybe we don't. The Bills have signed. Now, if you told me 3 years ago that we signed this player, I would have been over the freaking moon, right? Bills have signed Joey Bosa from the Los Angeles Chargers, a 1-year contract, $12.6 million. Most of it's guaranteed, $12 million guaranteed. Nige, where are we at with this one? Excited, not excited, concerns, Beane, what the fuck we doing?
It's cautiously optimistic, and that's as excited about it as I can get. It's cautiously optimistic because when Joey Bosa is healthy, he is a top 10 defensive end in this league. He's top 5, I think, in get off, snap, get off, and maybe top 7, something like that. Still top 10. He's still got the strength. The pass rush move arsenal is deep. He's an athletic guy, can win with power, can win with speed. He's got all the tools. Can he be on the field? And the answer to that question in the last handful of seasons has been, I shouldn't say a handful because a handful can imply 5. He played I think it was 14 games last season.
Over the last 2 seasons, I think he's played 14 games.
Oh, we should. Jake, can you do a little producing real quick while we're talking? Because I think he played 14 last season.
Okay.
I thought last season was his vast improvement in how many games he had played, but the last couple seasons before that, and they're kind of one-off freak injuries, but very little playing time, right?
Yeah.
And the guy had an unreal. Jake, I see you on mute. Go ahead.
Yeah. So you're correct. Last season he played 14 games. 2023,
Phew.
9 games. 2022, 5 games, and then before that he was relatively healthy. So
Yeah,
two down years with kind of a bounce back last year.
and so he's been trending up too, which is also a good thing to see. And again, these aren't injuries, the ones he's had. And if you're looking to get a in-depth injury history on Joey Bosa, go check out Banged Up Bills on Twitter. That is Dr. Kyle Tremble. He's an awesome doctor of physical therapy. It has a whole website devoted to Bills injuries. He's got a great write-up about Joey Bosa, so go check him out. But none of them are injuries that you are concerned about for the long-term health of a guy. But injury histories just seem to follow players. Last season, he missed a couple with some weird ones, couple games. If he can, here's what I'll say. If you could guarantee he's going to play 14 games for the Bills this year, I think he's worth that $12 million.
Yeah, 12 million is a lot less than I thought we could get him for
sure. And I think,
Especially
he's the worst of the two brothers. There's no denying that. He knows that. That's no secret. He's not dumb. But he's still a high-end player with a lot of potential to make a big impact on this team.
Yep.
It's just a question of, can you be on the field, Joey Bosa? And if that answer is no, I wouldn't have rolled the dice. This is something I would have stayed way away from. Maybe Brandon Beane looks really smart, and I hope he does, because that's a good thing for the Bills. And I'm a Buffalo Bills fan, so I want things to go well for the Bills.
Are you?
Given the way we've been bitten at the defensive end position with
Yeah.
injuries the last couple of years,
Yeah.
I would not have rolled the dice here.
Nope.
But
Agreed. But it might have been this might have been the next best option, right? Who knows?
Maybe
We don't know that, right?
Yeah,
We're just,
right. And we never will.
3 dumb idiots behind microphones that just guess, right?
Exactly.
So,
So yeah,
who knows?
but it could be great. It could be the steal of the offseason.
Put him in this Von Miller role, who we'll talk about in a moment, was released and gave some cap space and cap relief here in Buffalo. Put him in that 40%, only passing downs kind of role. I think that he could stay healthy and maybe make an impact. I think that could be an improvement at that kind of role.
Yeah. And the guy's coming in confident, dude. Like you saw in his introductory presser, he's coming in expecting to start. He's expecting to be a dominant player. Like there's no lack of confidence. The guy, and you like to see that, right? Because I feel like, guys, when they come back from injury, the biggest thing is confidence, right? Like, do they have the confidence in their body to plant and turn?
Right.
Right.
Get back to your former self. Yeah.
Exactly. So it's a guy that seems confident. He said at the beginning of last season, it was the best he's ever felt. He felt like he couldn't be stopped. So let's hope we get that guy, and let's hope that guy stays healthy for 17 plus games.
His first chance at free agency, right? He was in Los Angeles for his entire career. So this is his first time like getting out and say, hey, like let's go see who's gonna, can I go affect somewhere else? So could be a good change of pace for him.
Sure.
He's that guy you were talking about, drafted top of the first round. He was the 3rd overall pick. So
right,
if he can get back to that, there's the guy you were talking about.
Sure.
Yeah. Right. That's it. Now, unfortunately, the next 2 solutions were I was excited about, and now I'm much less excited about. Remind me if I'm saying this guy's name incorrectly, Nigel. Defensive end Michael Hoyt signed a 3-year deal worth $21 million. And defensive tackle Larry Ogunjobi signed a 1-year deal worth $8.3 million, essentially fully guaranteed. Both of these suckers somehow have landed themselves a 6-game suspension for violating the league's substance policy. So 2 players that definitely, based on their contract and based on the players they are, came in. I was expecting them to be playing like significant time and being a big part of the solution here in Buffalo on this defensive line. We're not going to see them for the first 6 games of this season.
Yeah. Okay. The first thing I have to say, Jake, I don't know if you've seen the way that Michael Hoyt spells his name, but it is Hoecht, and he wears number 55. So catch me calling him Michael Hecht at any point during this season. There was a player for the Sabres, Tom, and anybody else doesn't know, named Jochen Hecht. Hector Hecht is spelled the same way, Hecht, war number 55 for the Sabres. So anyway, yeah.
Did he switch sports? Did he put on some pounds and switch sports?
Well, he has to be in his late 40s, early 50s now. So I sure hope not.
For him.
And he's got plenty of CTE in his own right.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm not sure the answer that we're looking for. Yeah, this fucking sucks. No two ways about it. Here's the thing that makes me feel better is the history of these two players indicates that they are both stewards of the game and people that you would be comfortable leaving your young children in the same room as. They seem like great dudes, stand-up guys, rule followers, good, positive locker room presence, excuse me, things like that. So you like to think it was an honest mistake, right?
Yeah, I think it is, yes.
At least, I haven't really seen much on Ogunjobi. His seems much more of a surprise. Michael Hoyt seems to be, he explained his situation. It felt very genuine, felt very transparent. For those of you that might not know, he had been working with a trainer for a couple years. Excuse me. Eventually kind of, in growing his comfortability with this trainer, stopped vetting the supplements that he was giving him. And then turns out one of those supplements that he took bumped up his testosterone levels. So, he took ownership over it. He apologized. But in terms of the way it impacts the Bills, here's what we're not dealing with a young defensive coordinator, might I mention. You have to fundamentally prepare for the first 6 games of your season different than you're going to prepare for the second 2/3, right? Or the other 2/3. Because those two guys, like Tom said, are expected to play significant snaps. Michael Hoyt, you're kind of betting on the untapped upside and potential there. But I think Ogunjobi in particular probably was going to compete for that starting one tech spot. So that it's 2 spots that definitely hurt there. But I'm concerned about what the plan is going to be because now you're almost planning for 2 different defenses. Yeah. I mean, this really fundamentally changes the way that you game plan with your front 7. And now you have to it almost feels like you have to have a whole playbook for the first 6 weeks. And then over the course of 1 week, throw that playbook out and transition into a new one. And that is concerning to me with a, relatively young captain and defensive captain in Terrell Bernard, what is going to be a young safety duo, what could be a rookie cornerback too, and what is a second-year defensive coordinator. So I have a lot of concerns about this. I think it has the potential to impact this team way more than we thought. And let's not seeing some people the playoffs start in January or whatever. The first 6 games count just as much as the last 6 games. So I don't know where that logic is. It's not like if you go 0-6, that those games just don't matter. So it's concerning for me kind of a lot.
So, were these not known entities? I mean, clearly not, or they maybe wouldn't have signed them. But how did it come out that both of these new signings all of a sudden got tested? Is it a testing process that has to happen after they sign with the new team?
No, I think it's just testing practice that happens throughout the league year. And they had both been flagged. It came out that Bean announced them at the same time. He announced that he was aware of Michael Hoyt and his situation at when they started their negotiation. So that was part of this deal. But Larry Ogunjobi was a surprise. That was after that they had agreed to the signing. From my understanding, it's because Larry didn't know either.
Correct.
He was given notice. He was given notice after he had already been in negotiation with the Buffalo Bills. So it sounded like once he got here, they actually renegotiated that contract a little bit. So it might have been even bigger contract than $8.3 million. We don't know that, right? Yeah. So yeah, those players are periodically tested throughout the season. I don't know if it's everybody. I don't know if it's random testing, anything like that. But apparently it was tainted supplements as both. I don't even know if we have to get kind of harp on this anymore. But yeah, so that's the situation there. It's really disappointing because, again, you want these guys from straight out. They will be able to do the entire offseason as normal. As soon as week 1 hits, they can no longer be with the team for 4 weeks, and then they have 2 weeks of a ramp-on period where they're not playing, but they can still be in the building and kind of doing team activities.
Yeah. So that's all good. And people are burying Brandon Beane for this. He came right out and said that if he had known about Ogunjobi's situation, he would not have signed a second player that was in this bucket.
Right.
So, but the defensive tackle market, his words, had
Dried up.
shifted.
Yeah.
It had dried up. So, this is kind of what they had to do. Here's the issue that I take with all of this. I can't fucking believe that it is not mandatory for the NFL to have all of this testing wrapped up with the information out by the time the legal tampering window starts. What the fuck are we doing?
That's a good point. I thought you were going somewhere else with that. Yeah.
Like, why is this not? Because all this does is make players look bad. Like this made Larry Ogunjobi look like a real piece of shit. And thank God that he's got a background of him being a complete non-piece of shit. Because like this looks super scummy, man.
Yeah.
Like this looks like, and if he didn't have an established background as a good dude in the league, I don't think you'd be able to convince me that he wasn't trying to pull the wool over everyone's eyes and get more money than he deserved. This makes players look really bad. This should have all been handled 3 weeks ago. So this information is out, and then you can go and still negotiate with the guy, but you can go into it pitching a number that takes into account the fact that he can't play 6 games. Right. I think that is a colossal fuck up by the league and makes their product look shitty and stupid. Rant over.
CC Commissioner.
Yes.
Thank you. All right.
I'm going to tag Roger Goodell.
All right. Let's continue on just because we want to make sure we can get to the offense as well. Or should we save the offense for next week?
Maybe because we've got 8 minutes left.
Yeah. And I'd like to give this a full conversation and not kind of right. So let's pause here. Let's not rush things, right? Let's kind of move. So looking at the defense, we can leave today kind of having a little bit of a plan. For me, well, how about this? Well, let's let Jake, we're going to give you some low-hanging fruit here, a big pinata. Are there any spots here that you think should be emphasized in like draft picks or possible other free agent signings?
This is a test in listening comprehension because I think you guys have already said it. I think as far as draft picks go, the cornerback position is important. There's some depth in the draft for cornerbacks to pick up somebody. I guess to add more substance to what I'm saying, how do you guys think a just drafted cornerback would fare in a starting cornerback position? I'll pause. I won't pause there for a second. We'll come back to that. And then the other big need was what Nigel was talking about, a one tech type of player on the defensive line.
Good, Jake. Yes,
I said it. I said it first. Let the record show. So yeah, I think those are the two gigantic needs to mold the defense into the way that the coaching staff is looking for. So now I will pause.
Completely agree.
With these players coming in from the draft, do you think that there is enough pedigree and knowledge of the NFL game to step right into those starting positions, or does that give you some pause still?
No, it doesn't give me any pause. I know I mentioned that my priority is defensive tackle, that one tech defensive tackle, and I stand by that. But here's what I'll say. I think the gap between a first round caliber cornerback and a second round caliber cornerback is much farther than the gap between a first round defensive tackle and a second round defensive tackle. Your instincts, your athleticism, and your knowledge of the game at the cornerback level need to be so much higher than they do at the defensive tackle position, because that position is so reactive and you need to be able to read things in a split second. You can get a similar solid, very strong impact from a second, dare I even say a third round defensive tackle. It is less heard of, unless your name's Christian Benford, to be a later round draft pick and have a significant, as a cornerback, and have a significant starting impact.
True. But who is really good at doing that? The Buffalo Bills.
And that's where the
Dane Jackson was a 7th round pick. He is started in this league. Christian Benford was a 6th-round pick, and he's a top 5 cornerback in this league, right? I think this is something that we could see Brandon Beane and McDermott be very comfortable with somebody later down. We have like 7 5th-round picks, so maybe one of those, right? Will
Sure.
be right. Like I think I would be very surprised if quarterback is a top 3 picks, because we have a first, a second, and a second. In my perfect world, that first, second, and second is either that 1 defensive end and 2 defensive tackles, or 2 defensive tackles and 1 defensive end. That's what I want.
I hope they're packaged to get up into the top 15 and go get Kenneth Grant or one of these big defensive tackles. But
that would be so much fun.
That could be a conversation for next time.
Oh, could you imagine
Yes.
draft night like that?
I only do it every night before I go to bed.
So, yeah, I think those are the big needs. I think I'd be surprised if we saw any linebacker or safety signings or rookie draft picks, unless they're UDFAs to come in and compete for a practice squad spot or a camp, right? A camp invite. Like, I think that will absolutely happen. We'll need more camp bodies at those positions, but I would be surprised at a significant expenditure of draft capital at those spots.
Yeah. Here's the thing about the draft capital in general for this Bills team, and I know the draft is still a little ways off here, but the fact of the matter is the Bills have way too many picks than they can roster.
Yeah.
Right? I think they have 10 or 11 picks right now, and that many rookies are not making this incredibly deep Bills team. You're probably, maybe you're getting 5 rookies that make this team, and that's on the generous end.
And that'd be awesome. And that'd be like,
and that would be good.
That'd be great.
Right. And that's only half your picks. So I am anticipating, hoping Brandon Beane to really jump up this board a bunch with the ammunition.
What does he like to do? Jump up the board.
Jump up the board or move around, period. He doesn't like to stay
it.
still.
He doesn't. He gets antsy. He gets a little,
we have that in common.
Antsy trigger finger on draft day. So.
Sure.
Well, boys, this was fun.
This was fun.
Some stuff to look forward to here. Yeah. So we'll break down the kind of offensive free agent signings next week and kind of continue our offseason work as we go. Draft is coming up in about a month, right? So we got a lot of work to do. Get ready for that. I'm sure there'll be some more Sabres news coming, but folks, thanks so much for hanging out with us. Okay. These boys we'll say, I think the Sabres will be written out of history in Buffalo, New York. Oh no. All right, folks. Tom, take it away.
Thank you all from the bottom of our hearts for spending some time with us. Please give us a like and a follow on Instagram, X, TikTok, and our YouTube channel at Let's Go Buff Pod. These are my pals, Jake and Nigel. My name is Tom, and you're listening to the Let's Go Buffalo podcast. We're sending you love wherever you are. Go Bills, go Sabres, let's go Buffalo.